Hi, welcome back everyone. I'm Amy Souza and some of you may know me as Known Heretic from Twitter. And today I'm here to talk to you about the acronym TERF, T-E-R-F. I'm first of all going to explain that there is no such thing as a TERF, and then I'm going to show you how this term is being used as hate speech to silence women who want to speak out about their sex-based rights and about their specifically female experiences. Okay, so first, what does the term TERF stand for? This acronym stands for trans-exclusionary radical feminist. So what does this mean when we look at it literally? And when we look at this term, how is it used in practice? That's what we're going to talk about today. So in this term, we begin to hear that trans people, for some reason, are being excluded by radical feminists. But first of all, we have to say, what is a radical feminist? The radical in radical feminism refers to the idea of getting to the root. The analysis made by radical feminism is that within a patriarchal culture, the root of a woman's exploitation and oppression is based on our reproductive capacity. So women's reproductive capacity is both the why and the how of how this exploitation functions. Why are we exploited? Because we are born in bodies organized around the production of making large immobile gametes, i.e. a female reproductive system. And how are we exploited? We are exploited through the forced control of our female reproductive system. So that is the root analysis of radical feminism. Overt examples of women's exploitation would be practices like female infanticide, female genital mutilation, child marriages, surrogacy camps, period poverty, menstrual huts, forced pregnancy, trafficking, porn, prostitution, being killed for being raped, unpaid reproductive labor, and government control and restriction on abortions. So understand that these practices are not simply exploitative because they are abusive to women, and they are, of course, horrific and abusive, but they also represent global dollars and cents, okay? The exploitation of female bodies is part of the GDP of many countries. The global exploitation of women's bodies is $100 billion industry. So let that sink in for a moment. The patriarchy profits off of using and exploiting women's bodies as tools and resources as if we are objects, okay? As if we're just another resource for use value. Trafficking is modern day slavery, for example. Surrogacy camps are effectively the same. Okay, again, let that sink in. We have slavery right here, right now, today, and it's happening to women because they were born into specifically female bodies. Okay, I'm gonna break down some numbers. You can do your own research on this. This is readily available on Google. You can find these with many different agencies. You can look at the World Health Organization. You can look at, in America, you can look at FBI crime statistics. You can look at the UN Women, the CDC. There's a couple of places that you can find these statistics, but I want to talk to you about those dollars and cents. The global surrogacy industry, again, this is global, is a $2.3 billion industry annually, and it's posed to increase to a $27 billion industry by 2025. Trafficking globally is estimated to be about $150 billion a year industry, okay? The prostitution industry is globally $186 billion industry, and porn is globally a $90 billion industry, okay? So this is what the global exploitation of women looks like today, okay? Lots of money is being made off the backs of women and their bodies and their reproductive processes. Okay, so some people are making themselves rich right now off of women, and it's not the women themselves, okay? The women who are largely in these are mostly doing it in an enslaved or for very little money capacity. Men make up the vast majority who profit, and men make up the vast majority of buyers of these things. So these are the people who are both using and exploiting women's bodies are men, males. So radical feminism seeks liberation from these exploitations and oppressions, okay? And I want to make that really clear that this is a liberation movement, a liberatory movement. Radical feminism is not an equality movement, as some people get confused about. It does not seek equality within the patriarchy, but liberation from the patriarchy. This movement critiques the hegemony of power which keeps women oppressed. Solutions that include upholding the current hegemony of power are not solutions. These are not real solutions. Radical feminists seek to smash the patriarchy. Now, this is just a colloquial way of saying that we seek alternatives of relating to one another, and we do not agree with women's bodies being made into tools and resources for profit against our will. Okay, that's what we're saying when we say we want to smash the patriarchy. We are against this exploitation. Now, in the 60s, this was very explicit because women called themselves a women's liberation movement. Everyone knew you were fighting for women's lib. Lib and liberation were clear and present in how feminists identified themselves. Okay, we wrote books like Our Bodies, Ourselves. We knew that this oppression was happening to us because of our bodies, and we knew that taking back autonomy and control over our bodies was part of that liberation. Yes, so that liberatory quality was crystal clear. The goal of radical feminism is reproductive freedom and bodily autonomy, and this liberation further applies to seeking liberation from oppressive gender roles that are projected onto women's bodies. Now, there's also a lineage of feminist critique that has to do with the beauty industry, media, advertising, and these places are often projecting harmful beauty standards onto women and girls' bodies. These industries collectively work as a kind of programming, actually, and this programming has the capacity of grooming girls and women to dress and express in certain ways, especially in ways that are objectifying and perpetuate the idea that women should constantly be on display and available to the male gaze. And again, these are industries that represent hundreds of billions of dollars in capitalist profit, okay? Money is being made by selling women and girls these ideas. Now, radical feminists observe that these cultural gender scripts are not neutral, okay? These cultural gender scripts that are being perpetuated are a hierarchy in which men are designated with a certain status in culture and women are relegated to a lesser status. We can see this in the canons of Western history, in the canons of art and literature. We can see how the male gaze has been perpetuated in a way which men are seen as the subjects and women are seen as the objects. Okay, even today, there are books being written in which this is sort of continues to be perpetuated. So books like Invisible Women, published just last year by Criado, Perez, critique data bias in a world designed for men. Okay, so she looks at things like crash test dummies, airbags, drug and medical testing, pianos, handheld phones, snow clearing, and traffic patterns. And she looks at how we continue to use male bodies as the default for all kinds of ways in which we both collect data and which we make our products. So men's bodies are used as the default, and this is to the detriment of women's health and safety. We can also see in other books, like this year, a book published by Dr. Jessica Taylor, Why Women Are Blamed for Everything, which explores victim blaming of women that are subjected to violence and trauma, and how culture continues to see men's bodies and habits as the default while women are othered. Okay, not only othered, but blamed for their own oppressed position. In a very famous book by Rebecca Solnit, Men Explain Things to Me, she coined the term mansplaining, which is being used all the time now, to speak to a kind of a male entitlement which somehow continues to exist in academic culture, which is a gendered pattern which negatively impacts women who express their views in public. So this is all to look at the way that, look at what is happening to women, and also to give you some ideas of the radical feminist critique. And the point here is that radical feminism centers female bodies and seeks to liberate female bodies from the exploitation and sexist gender roles that females face within the patriarchy. Okay, so that's radical feminism. Now, why are some people saying that radical feminists are trans-exclusionary? Where is that coming from? What do people mean when they say this? Is it accurate? And is it true? Okay, so let's look at that for a minute. So some people are saying that radical feminists are exclusionary because they reject the gendered mantra of trans women are women. Okay, so what they're doing is rejecting the notion of centering male bodies in their feminism. Okay, because radical feminists are saying, you know, males can dress and express however they want, but males remain male for life, and males, no matter how they identify, or no matter how many hormones they take or what surgeries they get, they remain in male bodies, and feminism centers female bodies. But just because feminism doesn't center male bodies who want to be included in the mantra of trans women are women, is it trans-exclusionary actually? Okay, the short answer is no, it's not trans-exclusionary. Female bodies are centered in feminism, this is true, but when we say female bodies are centered in feminism, we're talking about all female bodies. Okay, this includes trans men, non-binary females, females who may consider themselves to be agender or genderqueer. Feminism fights for the reproductive justice of all female bodies. It's a liberation movement for all female bodies. Thus, radical feminism is trans inclusive. We include everyone who has a female body. We are inclusive of trans. It simply centers female bodies only. Okay, many trans men have opted to give birth. That is actually one of the biggest reasons that they show up in the media is when they give birth. Trans men have also needed abortions. They face menopause. They face period poverty. The issues that feminism fights for includes them, okay? It includes them because of the kind of body that they have, a body organized around a female reproductive system. So again, trans inclusive. Okay, so remember, feminism centers female bodies because of the very specific exploitation that we face for living in female bodies. Females face global, historical, male violence. Thus, we have sex-based protections to spaces and sports, and our liberatory aims are sex-based, okay? The liberation in women's liberation movement is a sex-based liberatory movement based on women's reproductive capacity. So not only are our aims not gender-based, okay? We don't base feminism's aims in gender, okay, which is what trans women are women is. That's a gendering of the word woman. That's changing the word woman from an essential being who has a body organized around a certain reproductive capacity to a style of person, okay? But So not only are the aims of feminism not gender-based, but we actually reject the very notion of gender, okay? So radical feminism rejects gender as a notion, and we see that gender is perpetuating sexist hierarchies which continue to exploit our bodies even today. Although radical feminism rejects gender, okay, our aims still center all female bodies regardless of how those specific female bodies may choose to identify. Globally, we observe that those females who are exploited in female infanticide, FGM, trafficking, surrogacy camps, etc., do not have the option of identifying out of their lived oppression, okay? Globally, most of the women that these exploitations impact do not have this as an option. These tragedies often happen to them before they are even in a place where they can form an identity. Some of them, it happens to be even before they could even say their own name, okay? So this is what feminism does. The aims and the goals center female bodies. The aims and the goals are specific to female bodies. Males do not require reproductive liberation, okay? Male bodies do not face female infanticide, FGM, forced pregnancy, period poverty, child marriages, menstrual huts, nor do male bodies require abortions. Male bodies don't need it. That's not the kind of body they have. And radical feminism is centering female bodies. So the thing is, male bodies are not even excluded per se, okay? They're simply not centered, okay? It's not that males are excluded from feminism. It's just not what the aims of feminism are centering. So liberatory movements require focuses, okay? That's how we mobilize and get things done, because it has a focus. So just like Black Lives Matter centers Black lives, or the children's movement centers children, or the animal rights movement centers animals, or the Earth First movement centers the planet, feminism centers female bodies. So this is about who is focused on, who is centered. It's not about being exclusionary. And as I've said, trans men are included, trans is included. It's just that we don't center male bodies because they have no need of this kind of reproductive liberation, and their bodies are not being exploited because of their reproductive capacity. So, centering one group is not exclusionary. It is setting boundaries and a focus around the aims of that particular movement. So now we've just seen there is no such thing as a TERF, as radical feminism centers all female bodies, including trans bodies that are female. So we've seen that the term TERF is inaccurate, okay? In fact, trans men, other gender nonconforming females are included in the analysis made by radical feminism. So how is this term currently being used, okay? This term is not benign, okay? It's not just some acronym that's talking about a certain sect of feminism. It is not a benign term. So it's inaccurate, first of all, but further, this term is being used as hate speech. It is being used as a slur to silence women who want to speak out about their sex-based rights and concerns, and about their specifically female embodied experiences. This term is most often seen accompanying violent threats to women. The website TERFisaslur.com, as well as other websites, document this abusive rhetoric. There are thousands upon thousands of searchable examples. You can even just search them on Twitter right now today. I'm going to read a few of these examples. I'm going to post a couple of the links in my comments so you can go look at these websites. You can look at all the screenshots. Go to J.K. Rowling's page right now. You'll see tons of these violent examples. Okay, so here's just a few of how the word TERF is being used. Someone find me a TERF. I'm mad and I'm ready to fist fight. Always punch a TERF all Nazis, every TERF in their disgusting faces. I will fuck up a TERF on sight. These bitches are still stuck on that second wave of feminism. Friendly reminder, if you're a TERF, I'm going to slice your throat. Actually, I will run a knife through you and sever your spinal cord. Absolutely just demolish a TERF's face. Fuck 'em up. Punch your local TERF. I want to rape a TERF to death, then chop its body into pieces, then leave them for the crows. Jerking off in the woman's room to own the TERFs. TERFs are in the news recently, so I'd like to remind everyone that they are trash and deserve to be punched. Hell yeah, dude, let's punch some TERFs together. We'll be an awesome team. They'll call us the TERF punchers in the newspaper. It'll be so rad. Also, I dare you to try and stop me from using the bathroom I feel comfortable using. I have no problem knocking someone's teeth out. Try me, motherfucker. If every time a TERF opened their mouths, they got a fist in it, they wouldn't open their fucking mouths. Expose them, get them fired from their jobs, get them kicked out of their homes. TERFs deserve death threats. Okay, so these are just a very few number of examples of how this term is being used. There are thousands upon thousands that I could have read you, and they are all disgusting, like this, mostly. Basically, the question that I'm asking you here is, how is this different from any form of male violence? How is it different? To be clear, these are male-bodied humans who are threatening violence to females simply because these females rightfully fear male violence, okay? It's kind of insane to me that if you wanted to be let into a woman's space, you would threaten her with male violence. Look at a lot of the ones J.K. Rowling is getting. She's getting a ton that are like, suck my lady dick. That seems very sex-based here. This is sex-based harassment. This is what Me Too was fighting against. Sex-based harassment. This is happening to women today. It has happened to me. I have been doxxed using these words. It's male pattern violence. Okay, so I want to also mention Jana Cornel, aka Radfem Jana, who is on Twitter. That's her handle on Twitter, who has received thousands of threats for speaking out about female genital mutilation and how that specifically affects female bodies. Okay, so it's lots of women who are getting this, and especially the women who are most vocal, like J.K. Rowling, Radfem Jana, the book that I mentioned earlier that I'm going to talk about, Jessica Taylor. Dr. Jessica Taylor has been receiving threats like this as well. So we're getting threats for speaking out against male violence, for speaking about our specifically female experiences. And I want to remind everyone that globally, 137 women are killed per day due to male violence. So this is hugely impacting to women. Male violence is a global issue that women continue to face. This is today, right now, women are facing this. Globally, the bodies of women and girls are abused and exploited daily due to male demand for this exploitation. And the question here is, do you think females deserve boundaries and bodily autonomy, or do you think they should be forced against their will to non-consensually share access to sports and spaces with male-bodied humans? I think they deserve boundaries. I want my fucking boundaries. Okay, so the term TERF is neither a neutral descriptor, nor is it benign. It is completely and utterly inaccurate. In the UK, it has already been recognized as hate speech. The UK court judge, District Judge John Woolard, acknowledged that TERF is a derogatory word aimed primarily at gender-critical women. This was Baldison's Magistrates Court on January 3rd, 2019, in the Regina versus Yardley case. Okay, so I hope that this talk has given you some understanding of radical feminism. I want to talk about this book. This is a really quick primer. I will write it up in the notes. If you want, you can see it's just a really fast read. It will give you the basics on radical feminism. This is by Andreia Nobre, who is amazing. She's a friend of mine on Twitter. You should also follow her there if you're not already. I also want to talk about the other books that I talked about. This is Invisible Women by Criado, Perez, an amazing read. This is the one about data bias. And I also want to mention this book by Dr. Jessica Taylor, another amazing read. This is about victim blaming and what women face who talk about their experiences. We can definitely see this with what's going on with J.K. Rowling right now and the attack that she's receiving simply for talking about the abuse she received for being female. So thank you for being with me today. I'm going to be bringing you a lot more video essays. Thanks for watching. Again, my Twitter handle is @knownheretic, and you can find me there. Thanks so much. Bye.